Although fatal zoo attacks are uncommon, they do occasionally occur and are almost always the result of human error. Most of the time, tourists disregard safety precautions and climb over barricades in an effort to get closer to the animals. In 2007, a man by the name of Carlos Sousa Jr. was visiting the San Francisco Zoo with his friends when suddenly a 243-pound Siberian tiger named Tatiana jumped from its enclosure and attacked. This resulted in the terrifying loss of Carlos's life. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. This is the horrifying Siberian tiger attack at the San Francisco Zoo. Welcome to Final Affliction. The Siberian tiger, sometimes referred to as the Amur tiger, is one of the most majestic animals on Earth and is the largest of all big cats. It is a species of tiger native to the forests of Russia, China, and North Korea. It is distinguished by its enormous size and powerful strength. To put it into perspective, some males weigh up to 660 pounds, equivalent to the weight of a large motorcycle. In addition to their massive size and strength, Siberian tigers have an incredible bite force comparable to that of a hydraulic press or a large crocodile. It is estimated that their bite force is around 1,000 pounds per square inch, strong enough to crush bones and kill large prey, like elk, with a single bite. A human's bite force is only around 160 pounds per square inch. Consequently, the Siberian tiger has one of the strongest bites of any land mammal, helping them become one of the most feared predators in the wild. If that's not enough, Siberian tigers are also powerful swimmers and are not averse to entering the water to hunt or escape danger. While these creatures are highly reclusive, they are at the absolute top of the food chain. Needless to say, they are incredibly dangerous to humans, especially if threatened or provoked. However, because these creatures are now considered endangered, conservation and protection efforts have been made throughout the years, including keeping tigers in zoos. Unfortunately, Siberian tigers have large home ranges, and being kept in a zoo may decrease the tiger's well-being, making them more agitated. Some people prod, tease, or otherwise provoke the animals in the zoo, hoping to invoke an exciting reaction from the animal, which creates a dangerous situation. This was the case with Carlos Sousa Jr. and his friends on that fateful Christmas day in 2007. It was June 25, 2003. The Denver Zoo was home to a small population of Siberian tigers. These magnificent creatures were part of a carefully managed breeding program that aimed to conserve and increase the genetic diversity of the species. In a large enclosure, a female Siberian tiger was born. The zookeepers and caretakers named it Tatiana. Born in captivity, Tatiana was not really an aggressive tiger and had no problems with people. On December 16, 2005, she was taken and permanently moved to the San Francisco Zoo to mate with a 14-year-old Siberian tiger named Tony. Everything was well until December 22, 2006, when Tatiana attacked her veteran zookeeper, Lori Komagin. In trying to feed her, Lori violated safety protocols and entered the tiger's enclosure alone, without proper notification to other staff members. As Lori approached, Tatiana attacked her by biting and clawing at her, seriously injuring Lori's head, neck, and upper body. Hearing Lori's screams, the other staff members rushed to the scene to help. Thankfully, they were able to safely remove Lori from the enclosure and call for medical assistance. Unfortunately, this wasn't the last time Tatiana would make headlines. It was December 25, 2007. Carlos Sousa Jr. and his friends, brothers Amritpal and Kulbir Dhaliwal, arrived at the San Francisco Zoo, excited to see the animals up close. Carlos was 17 years old at the time, while Amritpal and Kulbir were 19 and 23, respectively. The three men marveled at the lions, the grizzly bears, and the primates. but it was the Siberian tiger exhibit that drew their attention the most. As they approached, they saw the magnificent Tatiana pacing back and forth, the creature's amber eyes fixed on them. Carlos and his friends were in awe of the tiger's size and beauty. They watched as she crouched down, muscles ripping under her thick fur, and then pounced on a toy that had been left in her enclosure. Carlos laughed as he watched the tiger play, but then he noticed something that made his blood run cold. He saw that the wall separating the tiger from the visitors seemed shorter, and that it appeared to be lower at one end of the enclosure than the other. Carlos pointed this out to his friends, but they laughed it off, saying that there was no way the tiger could jump over the wall. After all, there were barriers and trenches in front of the wall designed to prevent such a thing from happening. Amritpal and Kulbir decided to do something stupid. The two brothers decided to taunt Tatiana. Kulbir picked up a pine cone and tossed it toward the tiger in the enclosure. Tatiana stopped pacing and turned her head toward the brothers. Seeing what happened, Amritpal grabbed a stick and threw it in the enclosure. Suddenly, the two began shouting at the tiger, hoping they would get a reaction. Seeing their reckless behavior, Carlos did not want to participate and tried to stop his friends. They listened, but laughed it off. However, it was too late. Tatiana was circling in the enclosure. She jumped from the bottom of the dry moat to the top of the wall, gaining enough height over the top to pull herself over the wall. She eyed Amritpal and immediately jumped on him. The tiger's ferocious claws and teeth ripped apart Amritpal's skin. As Kulbir screamed in terror, Carlos tried to save his friend by shouting and throwing things at the angry creature. He then tried pulling Amritpal, but this only provoked Tatiana even more. Tatiana focused on Carlos and decided to pounce on him, quickly knocking the 17-year-old to the ground. The tiger then decided to pull him away from the group, mauling him and biting him in the head and torso. Meanwhile, Amritpal and Kulbir ran for their lives toward the zoo cafe 300 yards away. However, since it was already closing time, the cafe was locked. Although the two brothers screamed for their lives, the cafe employees did not think much of it, suspecting that the screaming person was mentally ill and there was no actual animal attack. Eventually, Tatiana arrived at the vicinity and began attacking Kulbir. Finally, the cafe employee called 911, prompting emergency services and armed authorities to respond.
I don't know if they're on drugs, but they're screaming about an animal that had attacked them, but there's no animal out. He's talking about a third person, and I don't see the third person.
Is he saying that he was bitten?
He's saying that it's adult now. We don't know if he's on drugs.
Is the patient saying that he was bitten by an animal?
He's saying that it's bitten by an animal, but there's no animal escape. He could just be crazy.
Okay.
Okay.
4 police officers were dispatched to the area, and the entire zoo was locked down to prevent Tatiana from escaping. What the officers saw, however, was a gruesome sight. It was Tatiana biting down on Kulbir while Amritpal was on the ground, bleeding and screaming for help. The officers pointed their guns at the creature, but they hesitated for fear of hitting Kulbir. One of the officers created a distraction, forcing Tatiana to focus on them. As Tatiana angrily turned her attention to the noise, the officers shot her in the forehead, effectively killing the magnificent beast. When the paramedics scoured the scene, they found Carlos dead near the tiger enclosure. He had blunt trauma to his head and neck, scratches and bite marks to his head, neck, and chest, and skull and spinal fractures. His jugular vein was also severed in half. In the immediate aftermath of the attack, the zoo was closed while authorities investigated the incident and assessed the safety of the animal enclosures. It was learned that the walls for the enclosure were only 12.5 feet high, as opposed to the standard of 16 feet. The surviving victims, Kulbir and Amritpal, received medical treatment for their injuries. The attack also sparked widespread public concern about the safety of zoos and the treatment of captive animals. Some criticized the zoo for failing to properly secure the tiger enclosure, while others questioned the ethics of keeping wild animals in captivity. While Kulbir and Amritpal filed a lawsuit against the zoo, there were some interesting developments in the case. The subsequent investigations revealed that the three had alcohol in their system. Amritpal had twice the legal limit for operating a vehicle. For Carlos and Kulbir, it was still under legal limits. However, authorities also found evidence of cannabis use from the three men. On December 25, 2008, a life-sized sculpture of Tatiana was unveiled at the community garden on the Greenwich Steps at 274 Greenwich. A year later, the lawsuit between the two brothers and the zoo was settled for $900,000. Meanwhile, a lawsuit by Carlos's parents was settled on undisclosed terms. In that same year, Amritpal was sentenced to spend more than a year in state prison due to run-ins with the law, including probation violations, evading arrests, and speeding. Additionally, after filing the lawsuit, Amritpal was immediately arrested on suspicion of shoplifting. In 2012, Kulbir died of undisclosed reasons at the age of 24. It's very obvious from public records that the two brothers were likely provoking Tatiana, causing her to wreak havoc. Additionally, it was doubly sad that after Carlos tried saving his friends, they ran away from him to desperately save themselves. Ultimately, the aftermath of the Siberian tiger attack was a somber reminder of the dangers of interacting with wild animals and the importance of maintaining proper safety measures to prevent further tragedies. This story goes to show that even while visiting a zoo, accidents still happen, and if you aren't careful, it can lead to your terrifying final affliction.